Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, type in good morning. Good morning, my early birds. Gusharanjit, good morning. Edric, Cole and Kelly, Samuel, good morning. Christopher, Bardia, LJ, what is up? Michael, good morning. Hannah, nice to see you again. My hardworking students, I am proud to see you again in the dojo. What are we doing today? We're having a practice sandwich. Remember, what's your goal? Well, I presume your goal is to succeed. What's my goal? My goal is to see you succeed. Hey, that's terrific. We got the same goal. Let's make it happen. How are we going to do that? Well, here's the blueprint over here. We're going to have a look at this carefully worked out, class-tested, week-by-week sequence of events, which I know for a fact that if you do everything I tell you to do, the week I tell you to do it, you're going to succeed. And I think you're starting to trust me now that I'm not lying. I'm also not lying about the fact that you have to do the work. So that's part of the deal. I provide the ice cube tray. You provide the water. That's the bargain. So we're going to have a look at our ice cube tray. Today we're working on derivations. Obviously, that's what we're doing for the rest of the semester. The cool thing is, from now until the final exam, which is our third test, we're done as far as learning new skills. Everything now is about applying the skill, practicing it, getting better at it. That meant that we had to press a little hard on the gas pedal for the past 2 weeks. Am I right that the last 2 weeks was I was pushing a bit, like we were covering a lot of stuff? Am I right in that sense? Let's touch base, folks. How was the last 2 weeks? Yeah, that was a lot, huh? And I look, last week, for instance, I had a choice, right? And I've got a little more than I can fit in 2 weeks, and I know this from experience. I'm like, what do I do about, let's say, the theorems? Should I go over them quickly and sort of at the risk of being superficial, or should I go in depth? Or same thing for the different conclusion-specific strategies. So last week, I gave you a document, but it's part of your homework to look at it on your own. I gave you some advice for how to derive an equivalence. And there was also in that document advice on how to derive a disjunction that you're supposed to have done on your own. And so when you do the homework, you can turn to these documents for advice, essentially. What we're going to do today is 45 minutes of practice. So we're going to open up the floor. If you've done the homework, so the second homework, you tell me which question you'd like to look at. And there's a lot of variations on these derivations, right? Because there's a lot of choices that you've got some measure of freedom there. Line by line, when it's all said and done, you have to provide receipts, and it's the same thing. It's perfect plumbing, right? So we want to go these small step-by-step inferences that are all 100% secure. That said, in constructing that, just like you would if there's perfect plumbing, you could do perfect plumbing in all sorts of different configurations. You've got some freedom. One of the things I don't want to spend this 45 minutes doing is trying to reassure you that your version was correct. If you go line by line and everything was fine, you're cool, you're fine, right? It's more like if you were stuck or if you were unsure about some of the solutions I gave you, that's probably something worth looking at. So the 45 minutes will sort of take hopefully as many suggestions as possible. So when I open up the floor for that, I want everyone to tell me, can we look at this particular homework, this particular question? We had homework 1 and homework 2. I think homework 2 is probably better to look at because it had all of our inference rules and all of our connectives. We'll spend 45 minutes practicing together. Then what we'll do is we'll do the quiz, and the goal of the practice is that, who knows, maybe in between now and 10:45, you'll be able to go, and then everything will fall into place, and that's going to allow you to perform better on the quiz. The quiz is going to last 45 minutes, and we'll have 2 questions. It'll look just like we did for the mock quiz in terms of format. 2 questions worth 5% each. So if you're smart, you should put a timer, no more than 20 minutes per question. That would give you 5 minutes to sort of wrap up and upload. You don't want to cut these things too close. Even then, I think that's actually pretty close. You'll have, I think, enough time. Right? Everything's going to be just fine. But then we'll do the quiz. Once everything is done with the quiz, we'll reconvene back in class and we'll do some more practice. And the practice we're going to do will be to actually do the ones that we just did on the quiz. We'll do the quiz together. So what that will do is instant solutions and instant grading and instant feedback in a sense, because we'll do it together. I'll still grade it because I got to look at your individual copies and I have to grade these things. And remember, I keep your best 2 performing quizzes out of the 3 that we hold throughout the term. So we had 1 quiz for the truth tables. We're having 2 quizzes for derivation. So we'll have another quiz next week. I'll keep the best 2 out of 3. So I do have to grade these things. But the cool thing is we'll have instant feedback. So 45 minutes should be plenty of time for us to redo essentially the quiz. And maybe if we have enough time, who knows how these things are going to unfold, maybe some more practice. My friends, that's the plan for how we're going to spend our time for today. Does that sound like a plan? If you're good to go, tell me good to go. I'm going to grab myself some oatmeal. GTG, are you good to go? Everyone's got the energy levels ready? It's going to be a big class, as always. All right, let's do this. Where the hell are we? Let's have a look at our main document, especially I think the week by week breakdown is where we need to just briefly glance. The course is coming to an end really soon. I'm a little freaked by that. Every semester, I'm freaked because if semesters go quick, my life is going by quick, and I'm not sure I want that to go quickly. Let's have a look here. Let me scroll down. We did our mock quiz last time. So mock quiz that was done. And the idea of the mock quiz was, I know from experience there are some formatting. Folks often sort of do whatever the hell they want in the formatting, and I want to sort of shoot what it was a shot across the bow, right? Wake you up and say, okay, you got to get the formatting right, because I will give you 0 next week if you don't adjust that. So I was able to give you instantaneous feedback on that. Today we're doing the second quiz. It's going to be in a sandwich. We've already talked about theorems, but we'll talk about it again today. Last week we went really quickly. And then next week, same format, another sandwich with another quiz in the middle, right? And they'll have some more homework. And then the idea is that homework is just still some more practice, 21 exercises, 3 per day, 7 days a week. And then again, 21 exercises, 3 per day, 7 days a week. And then on April 3rd, we'll have another just practice session. So no quiz, right? Just practice, practice, practice. And this is the last chance we get to meet, because if you look here, the week after that, it's Easter Monday. There is no class. What do I say here as well? Well, you still have to practice. I do not want your muscles to grow cold, because our exam is on April 17th. It would really suck if you didn't do anything between April 3rd and April 17th. So please spread it out. I don't have additional homework for you to spread out, but you can redo these things. And that's a nice confidence booster if you redo them, right? And remember, the exam starts at 8:30. But here we are this week. A sandwich, next week, same thing, sandwich, third homework, fourth homework, and then some more practice and practice and practice and practice. My friends, as far as our week by week breakdown is concerned, is everything clear, or do you have any further questions about where we're going, where we've been? If everything's clear, type in clear. If you've got a question, ask that question. And you've noticed, and I'm really happy with these homeworks that I'm giving you, the solutions have more advice. I put little stars. I tell you at moments where I would imagine you're scratching your head and you're like, how the hell, why is the prof doing this? I'll let you know what I was thinking at the time when I did that. And I also give you multiple versions, although I can't possibly have every conceivable version. With that in mind, let's open up the floor for some practice looking back, especially at the second homework. Could someone let me know what they would like to look at? I'm going to share screen the second homework. I think the first homework, because it involves only 2 connectives and 4 instance rules, would not be as good a use of our time. So let's look at the second homework. And everyone see, and have a look at your second homework as well. Open up your file. Now, obviously, you don't want to open up your file. It's a workable file. You might want to open up a fresh one as well. And this is confirmed. Can everyone visually see the homework right now? I've got the second derivation homework. Type in yes if you can see it. And I don't want to redo it. Like, I much rather proceed. So Edric said, let's start at the beginning. Yeah, ish, but it's like you've done this, right? So I'm assuming you've done all 21 exercises. So I'd rather start with something else. You might want to take a fresh copy of the homework from the Moodle page if you want a fresh grid. One of the things you can do, by the way, is before you start your homework, you give yourself copy the whole grid twice, just move it to the side. And that way, if you screw up, right? Or if you want to do it a second time, you'll already have a fresh one on the same document. So you see what I've just done? That's advice for you as you're practicing. So if you haven't done that, you can do that starting from the third homework onward, right? Just copy paste the entire setup, right? A second time, just move it to the side. And that way you have the first one to do. It's per page, right? But that might screw up the number of pages, but who cares? And then when you want to do it a second time, you've got a fresh batch here. And of course, when you do it the second time around, if you ever want to do it a second wash, don't look at what you did the first time around. Let's give me a number, folks. What would you like to work on? What was something where you got stuck? So have a look. Take a few minutes. Right? Open up your homework. Open up your file. And one of the things, if possible, if there's one that has a disjunction as a conclusion, we might have a look. Can you explain what happened on question? What happened? Question 11, step 2. Let's do that. Thank you, Hannah. Let's have a look. I'm going to open up the solutions that I gave you. Here we are. And Hannah is asking, let me just make sure I got this right. I got to set this up because I need to be able, I got to format these windows correctly. It's so, hold on. I need to be able to see you folks in the chat. So Anna said, question 11, step 2 of the second homework. That's the second homework, right, Hannah? Thank you. And Hannah, while we're talking, did you get a chance to test that potential theorem that you were thinking about last week? Did you do a truth table to find out whether it comes out true in all possible worlds? Because I remember Hannah last week was we were going over the different theorems that we have at our disposal. And she's like, "Why can't we do this? We totally can. We never know, right?" The idea is these. I think because I realized why you could bet. Yeah, exactly. Oh, right, great. Because that's exactly what I wanted to mention, right? So one of that. Okay, terrific. One of the points of the theorems is that you want to switch connectives. If you got stuck because it was a conditional, changing it into another conditional won't move you forward. Anna, I'm glad. Smart. You figured out. I wanted to tell you that. But I was curious whether or not, and sometimes when I'm tired, the intuitions alone don't suffice. That's when it's nice to have tools. Which version, Hannah, did you want to have a look at? So you said step 2 of which version? And I'm glad you're asking for this one because that's a disjunction that we're trying to prove. So I'm going to probably open it on the thing. So now that I know the first one, okay, cool. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up the fresh one now that I know. Let's look at let's do it again. Let's do it together. All right, so I'm on the second homework in the question file. It isn't okay, hold on. Let me go back to that solution. So you do have a very precise question, and I'll answer that question. Oh, sorry, I'm going back and forth between solutions. All right, it's an assertion. I'm not at line 2. So Hannah and everybody else, look at what I'm looking at right now. All right, these 2 lines. At line 2, I am not transforming line 1. Why? Because line 1, by the time I was at line 2, was an uncrossed show line. It was not available for inference rules. It was not a live line. I am, however, entitled to try to show whatever the hell I want. So at line 2, what I did was I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to show this, but by trying to show this. And I know that if I can show what I'm trying to show at line 2, I will just be one step away by transforming it by T45 into obtaining the very thing that I wanted to show. How did I show line 1? I showed it by showing line 15. How did I show line 15, right? I showed it in virtue of all of that stuff. Do you see that? Yeah. It's not like, and I'm going to say this again, and we're going to do it together. I'm going to reopen up the question file because that's a disjunction, and I wanted us to work on a disjunction. No. And this is really crucial, right? It's not like you get to manipulate an uncrossed show line. You can never actually, since the first line is the ultimate goal, it's not like you ever get to perform an inference on that main conclusion. You are, however, entitled to do this. All right, so let's see concretely what that means. Let me just pause because I was chatting with Anna here, but let me just pause and ask everyone if that made sense, what I just said. If that was clear, type it clear. Why is the solution on the question sheet? Did we have a solution on 10? I should just maybe delete that if that was there. My friends, let's do this together. Is everyone ready? We're going to do this as practice. This is second derivation homework question 11. Presumably you've done this, but we'll do it together. Is everyone ready? Type in yes if you're ready. That's how we're going to spend our time. I think that should take up a decent amount of time. And that's going to allow me to tie up some loose ends from last time. So let me open up a file, which is the conclusion-specific strategies that we looked at last week. Can everyone please look at the conclusion-specific strategies? Open up that file, please. Tell me open as soon as you've opened up that file. I need you to have that file and to open it up. crucial. Okay, so in this conclusion-specific strategies document, there's advice on how to derive an equivalence. I've shown you this already, right? This is something that I've already shown you. But if you keep scrolling down, there's also another one of those green pages where I give you advice on how to derive a disjunction. And I give you 3 options. And I tell you this is the most promising option, the second best option, and if the previous 2 go nowhere, here's a 3rd option. Clearly, this is the one that you should employ. Now notice, it says here, since A or B, the disjunction, basically, is equivalent to saying if it's not the case that A, then B. I mean, think about it. By a process of elimination, what am I doing? Hold on. A or B, right? That's equivalent to saying if it's not A, then it's going to be B, or if it's not B, then it's going to be A. It's sometimes useful to derive one of the conditional versions. Notice these are conditionals, right? Much easier to derive a conditional. What gun do we use to derive a conditional? What's the method or strategy that we use to derive a conditional? When it's a conditional, use CD. And CD allows us to do, I mean, you've set up enough CDs by now, enough conditional derivations to know that it's a nice method. It lets you create a lot of lines. You get to make an assumption of the antecedent, and then you try to show the consequent, and that also then allows you to create some assumptions. Then the assumptions are material for you to work with, right? And so what you can do is you can try to show this instead. And since you know that this is just one step removed from being this, because they're equivalent in virtue of T45, then what you can do is you can convert that conditional into the disjunction you need. And remember, one of the rules is, right, is that you get to show whatever the hell you want to show, right? So let me now do this concretely. Let me again, I'm sharing a lot of different screens here at once. Let's go back to our second homework. No, that's not what I want. Hold on. I picked the wrong file. I got too many files working at once. My answers. No, the questions. Damn it. One of the things that's just a little frustrating on my end, folks who want to understand why I'm fidgeting with all this stuff, is because if I haven't touched a file in a while, so for instance, if a Word file, I haven't played with it in a few seconds, it assumes it's no longer something I'm likely to want to share, and it removes it from the options that I want to share. All right, here we go. All right, so here we are. Second derivation homework, question 11. Let's kick in our reflexes and do this step by step. First order of business, we want to figure out what sort of animal we're looking at. What animal are we looking at? At the risk of being pedantic here, let's do baby steps. Zoologists, what are we looking at? It's a disjunction. It's a disjunction. All right, so normally the rule of thumb that I gave you is what? If it's a conditional, use CD. If it's anything else, use. So what's the advice? Normally, the rule of thumb was if it's a conditional, use CD. If it's anything else, use ID. Yeah. So you could totally use ID. Let me set this up. And again, I'll give myself multiple versions here. So let me just kind of copy paste this, which was one of the beauties of being able to copy paste. One of the things you can do is you can move your premise a little bit to the bottom. Let me just get this out of sight here so we don't have any visual clutter. You can grab that premise. Here's my guest. I got to move the guest because I haven't set the table yet. And you can say, it is not the case that, and you grab this and you put it here. Let me just make an egregious mistake so everyone can spot me here. Assumption ID. I've just made a mistake. What's my mistake? Yes, I need brackets. Can everyone see that if I didn't bracket and negate the entire thing, I'd be in deep doo-doo? Can everyone see that if I did this, I'd be guaranteed to screw up? Because that's not at all what's going on. Type in yes if you can see that. Just because that happens. I'm sorry, I see this. So again, I just want to flag that. Remember, my goal is to get you to not make any mistakes in the quiz, right? It would really suck if you kept going and then you thought, well, and you keep working on these materials, they'd be erroneous materials. That's one way of doing it. Will this way work out? I don't know. Let me just check with people. Presumably you've done the homework in question 11. Did you use ID or did you use something else? If you used ID, type in ID. If you use something else, write else. You just kind of survey what folks did. Let me ask the folks who used ID. Okay, so I think folks in the home didn't look at the homework completely. So Hannah, you did CD, right? So Hannah had to look at that file. It's really crucial that you look at the advice that I just gave you on how to derive a disjunction. So remember the advice is this could work. Folks who did an ID, did it work? Yes or no? Let me check in with people because it's possible you can kill this with an ID. There's no problem with that. Folks who just typed in ID, were you able to do it line by line? You proof yourself, everything worked out? Type in yes if it worked out, no if it didn't. Were you able to derive this conclusion? Did you successfully do this one? Type in yes if you were able, no if you weren't. I just want to get a survey. And I got lots of folks who typed in ID, and so far only one person who typed in yes. So I want to know from everyone who typed in ID a moment ago, were you able to succeed? It was hard, yes, eventually. Okay, cool. Samuel did it. It would only suffice that one person did it to know that it's doable, and either way it's doable because you can always do these transformations. Okay, so this is how you would set it up for an ID. I'm going to set it up differently now. So I'm going to backtrack, and I'm going to show you another way of doing it. Here's the way. I'm going to backtrack. So here I go, undo. Okay. I can keep my premise, by the way, immediately after if I want. That's not a problem. I can keep it here, right? But since normally I like setting the table before inviting the guests, I'm going to put my premise a little lower. Oopsie, that's not what I want to do. Wow, that was weird. Let me move my premise down a little bit. Cut. Let me move this down. And look, I'm going to try another approach. You know what? I'm going to try to show line 2 instead. Now, what can I write at line 2? I can write whatever the hell I want. I can try to show whatever I want at any point in any derivation. Fair enough, man. Well, what am I going to try to show? How about this? I'm going to try to show if it's not Q, then it's going to be not P. And that's going to be a flat out ass. What kind of ass are we looking at? If I'm trying to show something, it's an ass. Complete that word for me. Assertion. And I haven't paid for it, so I put nothing in the brackets. Now, I could have asked for anything, right? I could have asked for anything I want. I could have plugged in whatever I want. But why do I want this? Well, for the following reasons. ... Help yourself to a happy ending. If I were to cross-box and annotate, always in that order. Suppose I succeed in doing that and I cross-box and annotate. I've achieved the following. I've got line 2 as a live line. Now, presumably, my premise would be boxed in somewhere. But if I've got line 2 as a live line, look at theorem T45. Everyone look at your theorem, T45. Tell me yes when you have your theorems in front of you. Now, T45, everyone? You've got that summary sheet, right, with all the inferences. Second page, I've put our 5 theorems there. Here, theorem T45. Notice it's a equivalence or biconditional. It goes both sides. On one side, you have a disjunction. And on the other side, you have a conditional. You can go move from the conditional to the disjunction and the disjunction to the conditional back and forth. Notice here, What this says is essentially an MTP on a horizontal line. T45 is an MTP on a horizontal line. It says if it's not one of the options, then necessarily it'll have to be the other option. So that's essentially what I'm saying here. Look at line 1. It's Q, at least one of these things, Q or not P. And here I'm saying if it's not Q, then it's not P. So if I say and I remove this, what am I left with? Necessarily, I'm going to be left with what remains by process of elimination, right? If it isn't the left-hand disjunct, it'll be the right-hand disjunct. Conversely, if it's not P, then it's going to have to be Q. So sentence or proposition 2 here, that's now a live line, suppose I want it somehow, blah, 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 cut to the chase, right, is equivalent in virtue of theorem T45 to line 1. Can everyone see that the contents, let me put this in colors, that the contents in orange, in virtue of theorem T45, and the contents in purple are equivalent? Type in clear if that's clear. Lost if you're lost. T45 tells you that those two things are equivalent. Let me put that on a horizontal line. Q or Q or not P is equivalent to not Q. If not Q, then not P. Also, Q or not P is equivalent to not P. So if not P, then you're left with what's left standing? Q. Can everyone see that? That's this is T45 and T45, right? By a process of elimination, if it isn't this, so if this says it's this or this, so if it isn't one of those sides, then you're left with the other side. If it isn't one of the sides, then you're left with the other side. Let me check again with everyone. Can everyone see this? Is that clear? Do you feel that in your bones? If you're clear, type in clear. If you're lost, type in lost. Lost a little? Okay, cool. All right, let me color code all of this. Let me call this, I don't know, option, let me zoom in, just for Edric's sake, and hopefully anybody else who might be lost, right? What does T45 say? Let's just remind us what T45 says. Spell it out for me, right? T45 in generic form says this, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a situation where you have P or Q, then that is equivalent to saying, it means it goes both ways. You could substitute that with, if it's not the case that P, then you're left with Q. Did I get that correctly? Is this what T45, I don't have T45 in front of me, right? But did I get that correctly, my friends? Prove me. Is that T45? Now, importantly, right, there is nothing about P's and Q's that are magical. Nothing whatsoever. Right? Nothing whatsoever. Such that we could replace this in fact, and let me just have insert symbol. Let me have some fun, right? If it's not going to be queen of spade, whatever, this is spade. And so this says spade or clover. If it's not going to spade, it's not going to be spade, then it's going to be what? What should I put in this question mark, Edric? I says it's at least spade or clover, and it ain't going to be spade. So what should I put, Edric? Clover. Yeah, clover. Okay. And notice here, there's also nothing magical about what option of the two that I'm eliminating, right? By a process of elimination, if it's not going to be this one, then it'll be this one. But also by that same standard, right, I can say the following. It's either this or that, at least one. Well, that's equivalent to saying, sorry, I'm just Trying to get my buttons right. All right, that's equivalent to saying that if it's not going to be clover, then it's going to be what? So if it's not going to be clover, I said it's at least one of those things, and it's not going to be clover, so it's going to be what? Spade, certainly not heart. Spade, right? And again, now I can color code this just so that it pops for everyone's benefit, right? Because some people are visual reasoners, and I think I would count as one of them. Let me make, actually, orange is not a color in cards. It's there's two colors. Let's make this red. So red and red here. So I think it's going to pop up a little bit better, right? Okay, cool. So let's assume that Q is going to be our clover. And let's assume that not P, the whole not P, right, is going to be, actually, I think I'm going to need myself a color for that. Let's purple. Let's make this purple. Because I just want to grab that tilde as well. The whole thing, not P, is my my clover, right? Not P. It's in purple. And notice I'm putting only one of the tildes in purple here. And I'm hoping these images kind of speak for themselves. What I have at the top is T45 in its different possibilities. And notice that they go both ways as well. So I could just as well do this, right? Switch it around and say this. Okay. It makes no difference. And let me decompress this a little bit so that it's not visually spooky. Okay. When I say that it goes both ways, I mean it goes both ways. I can start from the left and the right, and I can swap these two things. This theorem tells me these two sides are swappable. They're swappable. I can switch one to the other, right? And that means if I have a situation like this, which is essentially what I have here, a conclusion I want to try to prove, well, I can try to prove something else. And if I've proven it, then I'll be one transformation away, and I'll say line 2 by T45, and I will transform it into the very damn thing I want. I can take 2 once I've shown it somehow, and I haven't given you a story for how I've shown it, but once it's been crossed, boxed, and annotated, I know in virtue of this, right, that I can swap back and forth between these two formulations, and so I can take this, it'll become a live line, so I say line 2 by T45, and I will then show line 1. And if I do that, how will I have shown line 1? So I don't know. I don't have a clue how I showed line 2 because I didn't actually provide a story. But how would I show line 1 if I did this? If I said line 2 by T45, that's what I wanted to show, and I ended up showing exactly what I wanted to show. What would I put in the first brackets here? If I've shown line 7, if that's what I'm writing at line 7, DD. I've shown the very thing I wanted to show. DD. Exactly. So this is a kind of an indirect approach to doing it. Now, what's the benefit of that approach? And Edric, let me see if this made some sense so far. These little color coding, and everybody else for that matter. Let's touch base. Was this helpful? Little color coding, little hearts and spades, and a kind of a thumbnail sketch of what we're about to do. Tell me if that was helpful, and lost if you're still lost. Cool. So remember, you did an ID, and you said it was painful. I remember Kelly said I eventually did it, but it was painful, right? So let's see if this is going to be less painful, and you tell me. And I stand ready, by the way, if we're working a little longer on this, we'll just move the quiz a bit, and we'll just practice a bit less at the end. So I'm going to use my Eye of Agamotto, right? I assume if T45 is DD is implemented, yeah. Once you've shown line 2, whatever you've shown. So let's go here. Let's backtrack. All right, let's redo this. That's the start of our story. We start again. What animal is this? It's a disjunction. Now, a standard rule of thumb would tell us to attack this animal with an ID, but now we're going to learn an advanced hunting strategy. Instead of showing this, we're going to show something that closely resembles it. And you know what? Just for the fun of it, I'm going to put my premise on the outside because that's fine too. And I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to say, I'm going to try to show a version of this that I know if I show it will be equivalent. Now, Hannah did this attempt. Hannah, did you end up saying if it's not the case that Q and so on, or did you say if it's not the case that not P? Which of the two possibilities did you do? It's not the case that Q, and then you were left by remainder with this last option standing, or did you say if it's not the case that not P, and then you're left with Q? Which of these two did you do? The not Q or the not P? I'll do the whatever you didn't do, for just so you benefit as well and everybody else benefits. Because there's two possibilities I might want to show, right? I could try to show, yeah, okay. So I could try to show if it's not Q, then it's going to be not P. That's one possibility. Or I could show if it's not P, then it's going to be, if it's not P, then it's going to be what? What should I write here? And again, I'm not inferring this, but yeah, Q. I could write whatever. Do we agree that I could write K? Type in agree if you agree. I could just decide to try to show this. Yeah. But like, what the hell would be the point? I could. But it's a free-for-all. You can try to show whatever. Doesn't mean you're going to show it. Just like in life, you can make any claim you want. Doesn't mean you'll actually support it. That's the difference between the internet and a peer-reviewed paper, right? All right, so we're going to then say, and since Anako says, Anako, you tried to show this, so I'm just going to go ahead and show and said what I'm trying to show at line 3. So let's go. We could pick either version. One of them is bound to work out. We'll see how that works out. All right. So here's the game plan, people. We haven't actually started the hunt yet, but we're setting up the kill. We know that if we succeed in showing line 3, we'll just be line 3 T45 away from DDing line 1. Let me repeat. We know that if we succeed in showing line 3, we'll be line 3 T45 transformation away from directly deriving line 1. Is everyone clear on our game plan? Type in clear if you're clear, lost if you're lost. I want everyone to be on board on this. At the risk of, again, I want to make sure everyone, including the siloed ones, are clear. That's our hunting strategy. Okay, so we haven't done it yet, so we're not entitled to do this. And hold on, we haven't paid for anything. Okay, now we go back to our standard rule of thumb. First of all, what animal is this? It's a conditional. So we'd use what? If it's an elephant, use an elephant gun. If it's a conditional, yeah. Hold on, everyone. I'm looking at the clock. I'm just going to go tweak our quiz's time settings. All right, let me just, I'll adjust that later. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to use a CD on this. Let's go back to where I was. A CD. That means I'm going to assume the antecedent and try to show the consequent. What's line 3, by the way? What sort of ass is this? Help me out. Assertion. Thank you. All right. Assertion. And I haven't paid for it. So I assume the antecedent. And you know I like to have fun with you folks, right? And that is an assumption that I'm allowed to do in virtue of conditional derivation. And then I'm going to try to show something. What am I going to try to show? Again, I can try to show whatever, but I'm a person on a mission here, right? I'm going to try to show the consequent, and that is going to be an assertion. I haven't paid for it yet. And then again, what animal am I looking at? Let's do our zoology. It's a negation, so I'm going to try to attack it with an ID. So Kamal skipped a step. We want to attack this. First of all, you want to identify which animal it is, and you want to say what sort of strategy we're going to attack this with an ID. Am I entitled to skip my double negation here and just write P? Yes or no? For assumption ID? Yeah, I can skip. I don't have to write not P. Like that'd be 2 knots, right? There's nothing wrong if you did this. Strictly speaking, that would be just fine. right? And then you can use, let's say 6, because that's a live line, by dn and get right back to having p. I would have no problem with anyone who did that. However, I do allow you to skip double negation in assumption ID because it's a contained exception. It's not an exception that you can switch on and off. All right, my guest happens to be here. This is all of my setting of my table. As far as setting the table and inviting the guests, is there anything further I need to do? Yes or no? First stages of this derivation, it's just setting the table, inviting the guests. Is there anything further I need to do to set this up before I actually start doing this? There is, let me know what it is. If everything is good, let me say good. If we're good to start, say good. I think we're good. I agree. We're good. There's nothing further I need to do. Okay, so numerically here, what are my live lines? Tell me in the chat. Number them. What are the lines that I'm entitled to manipulate? Number them. 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so now looking at 2, 4, and 6, give me 2 lines and 1 inference rule. Tell me something I could do. A no-brainer. Interviewer says 2 and 6 by MP. I'm tempted to think, I always, if I have a choice between doing an MP or an MT first, I do an MP. 2 and 6 by MP gives me Q as a conclusion. Notice it's 2, comma, space, 6, comma, space, MP in uppercase. Please follow that convention. My friends, perfect plumbers, can we verify it before we move on? So ignoring everybody else. Perfect plumbers, proof me. Any problems or everything good? Type in good if it's good, problem if there's a problem. Perfect plumbers, verify. Now, Ignore and Kamal were suggesting some MTs, but I think we've already achieved something really important. Look closely. What are my live lines? 2, 4, 6, and 7. 2, 4, 6, and 7. If I do 4 by repetition, thank you, Indivir, for that suggestion. Cole, same. 4 by repetition, I bring down this not Q on line 8 over here by 4 by repetition. What am I left with? Now my live lines are 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8. What am I looking at? A juicy, satisfying contradiction. Beautiful. Exactly. It's a contradiction. We want to call it a contradiction at this stage, not resistance, because it's tracking a full-on contradiction. It's not the same thing or ignore. So it really is a blatant contradiction. So that's the technical term for that. It's a little different than what we encountered in the short truth tables. Okay, so what does that pay for? So I've got a contradictions between, no problem, between line 7 and 8. What does that pay for? What's the next bill that this pays for? On what line? This allows me to pay some bills now. Yeah, all the way, but next bill, one thing at a time. Pay your bills once at a time. Do your paperwork, be a good accountant. What's the thing that this pays for, strictly speaking? That pays for line 5, exactly. It pays for line 5. It means that I was able to show line 5 by indirect derivation. That whole thing is going to end up being boxed because you want to cross box and annotate. Cross box and annotate. I'm just going to shade this right now, 10%, just so that we can see. Can everyone see how at this stage we were able to render line 5 a live line in virtue of this sub-derivation? Is this part over here clear? If that's clear, if lines 5 to 8 are clear, type in clear. If you're lost, type in lost. Again, I'd rather take our time here. Cool. Now, if I paid for line 5, what does that allow me to pay for now? Since I showed line 5, what does that allow me to show? As I said, assume the antecedent, try to show the consequent. That allows me to pay for which line? Shows cross box and annotate. I've shown line 3. How have I shown line 3? By showing line 5, I thereby show line 3 in virtue of what approach? CD. That's entirely correct. So now I've shown line. Again, I'm going to make a box here, just temporary boxes. All right, I'm going to clear this. Hold on, solid, clear, borders. I'm going to just make a little box within a box for the moment so that everyone can see. I'll redo all these boxes at the end, but let's just see here if everyone can see that. That everything here, can everyone see that clearly? That's how I managed to show line 3. That's the story beneath. I was able to assume the antecedent and to show line 5. How'd you show line 5? Here's the story. How'd you show line 3? Here's the story on how I showed line 3. I assumed the antecedent. I was able to show the consequent. Well, tell me, Mark, how'd you show line 5? Here's how I showed line 5. My friends, lines 3 to 8, is that super clear? Type in clear if you're clear, lost if you're lost. Cool. All right, so what are our live lines now? So at this state in our derivation, what are our live lines? Number them. Two's a live line. What else? What else is a live line? Inderveer says 2 and 3. Is Inderveer correct? This is a live line. It's a live line. What are our live lines? Is there any further? Remember, when it's in a box, you can't use it. What's not in a box? If you can't use an uncrossed show line and you can't use anything in a box. Turns out Inderveer was right. 2 and 3. That's your only live lines, 2 and 3. Why you can't use 1? It's not a crossed show line. Why you can't use anything from 4 to 8? They're boxed in. These are my only live lines. Can everyone see that? Type in clear if that's clear. Question if you've got a question. It's good to stop and to pause and to inventory all your live lines. So these are all lines that are now available for use. Now, we started off with a goal. Remember, our goal was to try to transform this and to get exactly what we wanted to show. So how about this? I take line 3 and I say, I'm going to transform it in virtue of T45. If I transform this in virtue of T45, what do I get? I get this. I get the very thing I wanted to show. Can everyone see how I obtained line 9? It's an application of T45. Type in clear if that's clear, lost if you're lost. How did I get line 9? I took line 3 and I did a T45 on it. Take the time to look at the screen right now. If you have your version on you're working on as well, take a close look. I took line 3 and I transformed it. I'm entitled this. I'm saying the same thing as line 3. At line 9, I'm saying the same thing differently in virtue of T45. And that's I'm keeping my receipts. Well, that's terrific. If I've shown line 9, what have I thereby shown? Which line have I thereby shown? By showing line 9, what have I now shown? I've shown line 1. I've shown line 1. Cross, box, and annotate. How did I show line 1? In virtue of what? Let's do our annotation. How did I show line 1? I wanted to show Q or not P, and I was able to show Q or not P. So I showed it DD. I showed it by DD. And now I've got to do my boxing correctly. So I'm going to go over here at borders and shading. And I know that all my boxes kind of vanish, unfortunately, when I go from the inside out. So I'm going to work myself from the outside in. I was able to prove, hold on. I was able to prove line 1 successfully. I was able to derive it given the materials I was working with. Let me just kind of remove this little line on the side here. Borders and shading. I've got this annoying little side. Here you go. You're gone. All right. And I was able to do the following. Notice I'm going to box this, a box within a box. And remember, the box, you don't box in the show line. It's always a crossed show and then the story beneath it. There you go. I was able to show this. How'd you show it, Mark? Well, remember, I had a reason that was given. So I had at least one premise. Fair enough. Now I'm entitled to show whatever the hell I want. So what I did was I tried to show this. Why, Mark? Why did you want to try to show this? Well, here's my rationale, my friends. You don't have to do this, but I would tell you, right? I say, I want to show line 3 because it essentially says the same thing as line 1, but with an easier to manage conditional. And so I was able to show line 3. How'd you show line 3, Mark? Well, I took it seriously. It said, if I make this assumption, then I should be able to obtain this. So I made the assumption and I was able to obtain this. Tell me, Mark, speak further. How were you able to obtain this? Well, I assumed that it was wrong. All right. And if it was wrong, that should land me into a contradiction. Oh, my box here, I realized you're right. So yeah, my boxing here is a little messed up. Thank you. You got to get that right. Absolutely right. Hold on. I did that multitasking here. There we go. As good. And notice I'm proofing this out loud, by the way. This is what you got to do. You got to proof this stuff out loud because that's the only way you're going to find out whether you got this right. So you leave yourself enough time to proof. Problem with me right now is I'm doing this while teaching. If I were to do this and devote all my energy to this, I'd be just fine. My perfect plumber is now my boxing is correct. Now my boxing is correct. Because of course, if you manipulate at line 9, if you manipulate line 3, it's got to be outside. It's got to be not in a box, right? Where that transformation at line 9 happens. And so how did you show line 5, Mark? Here's how I showed it. Oh, that's terrific. So you were able to show line 3. Yes, I was able to show line 3. Then what? Well, since line 3 was now available for use because it was crossed, what I did at line 9 was I transformed it in virtue of theorem 45, and it allowed me to get the very damn thing I wanted to show. Ah, beautiful. 9 lines. My friends like Kelly and other folks who had used an ID, how many lines was your derivation for that one in your homework when you use an ID? Just to compare. He said it was painful. Give me a number to that pain. How many lines? Go over your homework for this one. I'm just curious to see how many lines it took. Folks who had done an ID to show this, how many lines was your derivation in total when you succeeded? Like Samuel said that he succeeded, did an ID for this argument. Go over your own notes. Tell me how many lines. I'm just curious. It's not a big deal. I don't really care about how many lines. I just want to have a point of comparison to see if this method was, palpably more efficient. Thank you, Cole, for sharing that. Again, it's no right or wrong number. Yeah, have a look. 15, Kelly, lots. 16. Look, we did this in 9. It was not exactly difficult. We did an MP, a repetition, and a theorem. 16. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for letting me know. So am I right or am I right? This is like a nice, elegant method for killing a disjunction. Try to show one of its equivalent implications, right? Transform it once you've shown it by T45, and you get exactly what you wanted to show. My friends, I'm looking at the boxes right now. Do you want me to shade it? I'm going to shade it. So look what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do some coloring. I select this part over here. I right-click. I go borders and shading. I go over here and shading, and I give it 10%. I'm going to shade just enough so that I got contrasts. I think it's nice and clear when you do that. Over here, notice this all has to be the same box. So that's this gray box over here. I'm giving an aesthetic treatment. If you would have gotten everything prior to this, it would still be 5 out of 5. No problem. There we go. Box within a box within a box. I'm going to pause and ask everyone, was this clear and helpful, or do you still have a problem? We did something and you're still not clear. Type in clear if you're clear. If you still have a question, ask that question. Anna, by the way, when you did yours and you did this other, by the way, Anna tried to show the other way around. How many lines, Anna? Now, Kelly, I'm glad we did. And it gave me a chance, an excuse to go over how to attack a disjunction, right? That advice. Hannah, when you tried this other, approaching it, because there's 2 conditionals that are implicit in this, and you went the other way around, how many lines? Just out of curiosity. And again, the number of lines I don't care. It's the perfect plumbing that matters. Lots of derivations can have lots of lines. I don't care. Right? 15. Okay, cool. Yeah, kind of like the answer key. Cool. Is this different from the answer key, by the way? So I'll throw it in. Did I do it differently? Because I don't know my solutions off the top of my head. Is this different? Did I do something different in the solutions I provided you? Otherwise, I'll just throw it back in the mix. The product of our effort will end up in the mix. I'll just put it there. How many? So solution you said is 15. Is there different versions? I don't have the sheet in front of me, folks. Let me know. Let's glance. Actually, I'll glance. Yes, it's there. All right, they take 15 steps. All right, well, but then we can do this much sooner. Then that's cool. So this one's faster. All right, cool. I'll tell you what. I'll keep myself a note and I'll throw this in the mix. So I'll give myself a note here. Add this to solutions. Cool. Because there's no end to this kind of stuff. Oopsie. Why did I just do all this? There's no end to this. These materials can keep. Add this to solutions. Add to solutions. Good. My why am I making space? Whatever. I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna say that we start our quiz at 11. Does that that was actually no, we're switching pages probably. Whatever it was. Who cares? Yeah. So with this one, the one that had this conclusion, whatever page it ends up on. My friends, I'm going to go tweak my buttons. Meanwhile, while I'm multitasking, the buttons for the second quiz, are we clear on starting our quiz at 11? So the quiz will start at 11 and it ends at 11:45. If that's clear, type in 11 to 11:45. We're getting ready for the quiz. Because remember, we're having a practice sandwich today. So 11 to 11:45. I'm going to go in right now. I'm saying this out loud primarily for myself because I'm an idiot and I'm multitasking so many things. 11 to 11:45. That's clear. Type in 11 to 11:45. And then we're going to do this. 11 to 11:45. Good. All right. So now's the time to do the quiz, my friends. All right. So you got about 3 minutes. Go to the washroom. What you got to do, and good luck. And we will reconvene at 11:46. All right. We'll come back and we'll give us another 30 minutes for us to practice. And the practice will be the solutions. We'll essentially grade you. All right. Good luck, everyone. I'm putting everything on pause. Good work. Good work. A nice hour well spent. Very proud of everyone. All right. Good luck, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. If you can hear me, type in back. Welcome back, everyone. If you can hear me, type in back. Hi, Anna. My computer's having a computer fart, slowing down a little bit. How did we do? How folks doing? All right. Let me hear from everyone. How you doing? So now we're in the big leagues. Do we agree? There's no more kidding around now in the class, right? Are we agreeing? This is the big leagues. Are we starting to taste the big league a bit? Because remember, Karate Kid, now we got to compete now. We're in the ring, right? We're in the ring? We're in the ring. Welcome to, I told you things would climb up, right? Told you things would climb up. Remember also that Sensei Mark said that the only way to even have a chance to do well in this class is what? Let's go back to the advice. I'm just going to go back to that advice. All right. Let's go back to my closing advice. I'm going to say it again. Right. I'm going to say it again because it's true. It's true. And the thing is, I can't tell how folks are doing, and I can't tell what they do at home. Let me just kind of go over this piece of advice here once again. Hold on. And things are a little slow on my end, so I don't know why my computer's a bit slow. All right. So repeated practice is essential to success in logic. If you just look at the screen passively as if this was YouTube, then you will fail, even if you indulge in that laid-back approach only once. So one of the things that got me concerned a little earlier was that when I asked for folks, let's work on the homework, which question you want me to work on, like I didn't get many takers, right? It wasn't like, oh, can we look at this one? Or, like you got to put you really got to lean into it and work. If you skipped last week's homework and you didn't do 3 a day, I mean, only God can tell what you did or didn't do, right? It's not me. But if you want to stand a chance of doing well, you really, really have to sort of apply yourself. Now, the good news is I'm keeping your only best 2 scores. So if this was a wake-up call, that's fine. We're going to now, as I promised, remember we're doing 2, right? Of course, I help everyone out. I'm still, what I said at the beginning still applies, right? And it's built into the course structure that, and I know from experience, the only thing that tends to crack that whip and wake folks up is to do poorly in something, and it typically happens around this time. So let's continue with our sandwich now. Folks, we're going to practice, and we're going to actually grade our quiz right now. So remember, we've got not 45 minutes now because we took more time, and if you can stop typing, folks. Part of the reason why things might be slowing down is because, again, I can't, it's not a therapy session, so so Avneet, not sure what that's all about, but now we're going to look at the quiz. I don't know that we have time to go over both questions, but we certainly have time to go over at least one question. Which would you prefer us to go over, question 1 or question 2? Take a poll. Just gonna we don't have a lot of time, so it's a question of first one we're going to do first, right? So either question 1 or question 2. I'm counting here. This is not the place for this, my friend. So I've got a lot of folks asking for 2. Let's go for 2 first, and then if we have time, then we'll do no, this is inappropriate, my friend. So you're one more comment away from my removing you from the room. So let's have a look at question 2. All right. No, there's no haha. None of that is funny. None of that is funny. All right. So my friends, okay, let's just pause for a second here. Yeah. We're in the dojo. I'm just going to clear everything in the chat right now. All right. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. All right. Deep breaths. We're here to learn. I don't grade people, I grade performances. Performances happen within certain parameters. Parameters of time, parameters of rules, parameters of the actual course content. That's all we're concerned with. That is it. The rest is between you and your conscience, between you and God, between you and whatever. I don't know and I don't care. Within those parameters, I want to see you succeed. I know for a fact that success is possible, but it can only happen under certain circumstances. Working within those circumstances, we can now look at the quiz and work on the derivation that you thought was most problematic, Right now, folks have said the second one was probably the one we should do first, given that we're on a timer here. We don't have enough time for either a therapy session, much less to do everything that could conceivably be done, because there's home work, and that happens at home. So now we're realigning here. It's not a free-for-all, and I don't want to veer into something else. Otherwise, I'll be like, class cancel, I'll go straight to grading. On the update here for just a moment, I did add to our solutions, because these are living documents. I'm in charge of them. They're my course material. I added the one that we practice on. So Hannah had asked, can we have a look in the second homework at question 12, and we did it slightly differently than what was in the solution sheets. So as an update to everyone, that is now in the solution sheets. That's what I was doing while you were working on your quiz. It looks really beautiful, by the way. So that's an addition. The course is constantly getting better almost by the week. It always is, because that's the way we do it. Okay, everyone. Having said that, is everyone ready to actually do this and to go over the argument? If you're ready, type in ready. Sorry, I had to sort of bring you back in. And I front load that I will drop your worst performing quiz, because I know from experience how this goes. So it's not like my first rodeo. Yeah, it's not my first rodeo. Papa Bear's teaching this for a while now. All right. So here's question 2. We're going to move our guests, and let me just check if everyone can see it. So type in C if you can see it. Thank you, my friends. Okay. So first order of business is we want to figure out what is the conclusion that we want to try to establish. My zoologist, what animal is this? Step by step, we're going to do this. Not super slow, but step by step. It's a conditional, so we want to show it by conditional derivation. That means we're going to assume the antecedent. That's an assumption, and it's an assumption that I'm entitled to make in virtue of CD. And then I want to try to show the consequent. Here's my consequent. I'm going to copy paste it. I'm going to put it here. That is going to be an assertion. I haven't paid for it. Talk is cheap. I'm looking at this. This is a negation. Negations are going to be, we're going to attack them with an ID. I can skip double negations. I'm going to put R, and I'm going to write assumption. And it's an assumption that I'm allowed to do in virtue of ID. And only in assumption ID can I skip double negation, and I do that. Looks good for table setting. Then I invite my guests. I cut this, and I put this over here. Here are my premises. I have mechanically generated lines 1 to 6. If you do that properly, that is 1%. Is everything perfectly clear, my perfect plumbers? If everything is good, type in clear. If I made a mistake, tell me my mistake. Thank you, perfect plumbers. All right, our live lines are what? We have 2, 4, 5, and 6. 2, 4, 5, and 6 are our live lines. Do you see something that we can do with inference rules, combining 2, 4, 5, and 6? Which lines by which rule? I can see at least one so far. A kind of a no-brainer that I can see fairly quickly. 2 and 6 by what? Kelly suggests MT. Thank you, Kelly. 2 and 6 by MT. I'm tempted to agree. So I've got not S, and not S is a negation of my consequent. That is going to give me the negation of my antecedent. So it's going to negate whatever my antecedent was. Paste. That's the antecedent of the conditional at line 6, right? And that is the product of this. Perfect plumbers, verify. Is everything good? Type in yes if everything's good at line 7. Mistake if I made a mistake. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want it to be Movember all year. When I see 2 mustaches in a row, I see 2 tildes, I like to clean them away. They bother the crap out of me. So I'm going to grab this over here. I'm going to put it at line 8. I'm going to remove my parentheses. And I'm going to say that at line 7, I use double negation to trim this. Look, I have 7, comma, space, DN, in capital. Perfect plumbers, is everything tight? Type in yes if everything is perfect. Mistake if I made a mistake. So carefully. All right. My live lines are 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I have taught you that a good reflex is whenever you see, look at your conclusion specific strategies. The last piece of advice on that document is whenever you see a conjunction, simplify both of its conjuncts, even if you don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. I'm going to take line 8 and I'm going to simplify one of its conjuncts. And I'm going to do that twice over. So I'm going to do line 8, and at line 10, I'm going to simplify the other conjunct, and I end up with this. Perfect plumbers, right? Yes, if everything is perfect. Mistake if I made a mistake. As many perfect plumbers, please verify me. Now, at this stage, I'm going to take an offer if someone's lost. If you're lost, type in lost. I'm going to count to 3. Going once, going twice, third. All right, cool. Our live lines are what? Then you pause, you look out your window, you stretch a little bit. 2, 4, 5, this over here, 7. That's a lot of lines that we've generated. Sadly, though, would you agree that there's really nothing further that we can do? Type in agree if you agree. Something, give me a suggestion of something I can do if I've missed something. There's nothing further we can do. That's what I think. But maybe I'm wrong. Can't see anything further to do. Type in agree if you agree with me. I'm looking at these lines. I'm staring at them, going back and forth. What inference rule? And remember, first homework was to memorize all 10 inference rules. So they have to be in the back of your mind. If you have to go glance at the sheet all the time, you are screwed. This is where you got stuck. Yeah. All right. So what do we do when we're stuck? How do we get unstuck when we can't do any further inference rules? No further inference rules move. What do we do? Well, there's nothing we can do. Call a show line. Try to show something. All right, agreed. This is where we separate the children from the adults. All right, we're going to try to show something. What can we show, strictly speaking? What are the constraints on a show line? Are there any constraints? What can we try to show? We show whatever we want, right? Whatever the hell we want. And we show 5. Here's the thing. If we show 5, we've already got line 5. Why would you want to try to show something you already have? Right? So I'm going to kill that reflex right away. Suppose I do that. Oh, fair enough. I want to try to show this. Why would I do that? Right? I want everyone to go into the document that says conclusion specific strategies. What is the advice on the last page? Read it out for me. Type it in. Conclusion specific strategies. The last page has a bunch of advice. What is the relevant piece of advice that we might want to turn to in this case? Write it in the chat. Open that document. The document that was part of last week's homework. It's the full kit that's going to allow you to move forward this month. Look at the last page. I believe it's in green. I give you 3 pieces of tips. Tips. They're just tips. But there's a tip in there that could be relevant. Consult those tips and write in the chat bar what will be the relevant tip. When a conditional, Edric writes, when a conditional occurs as a previous line and neither MP nor MT is applicable, attempt to derive the antecedent of that conditional. Everyone, can you confirm that Edric is writing correctly the tip? Type in yes if you can see that tip in your document. Conclusion-specific strategies and advice. There's a sheet of tips at the end. Papa Bear loves you. He's told you a bunch of advice. All right, let's reread that again. When a conditional occurs as a previous line and you can't do an MP or MT, does a conditional occur as a previous line? If so, what line? That's not a relevant line because it's not a live line. Is a conditional somewhere? Where is it? Let's look. Line 5 has a conditional. What else? Line 6 has a conditional. And the advice is attempt to derive the antecedent of the conditional. The antecedent of the conditional. Which of these two antecedents would you like us to try to show? The one from line 5 or the one from line 6? The easier one. Which would be the easier one? Why would we know what's the easier one? Well, I mean, what animal are we looking at line 5? What animal is the antecedent of line 5's conditional? So what have I selected right now? What animal is this? It's a conditional. And when we attack a conditional with CD, we get to make quite a few assumptions and it generates quite a few lines. This is a conjunction, is a negation. And if we did it, we might have a double negation that we get to skip. We'd end up with a conjunction. It's not obvious. You want to try this, folks? Let's do this. Let's do the antecedent of line 5's conditional. And that would be this. And this is an assertion. And I haven't paid for it. And I'm going to try to show this because the tip says when you're stuck and one of the previous lines above is a conditional, try to show the antecedent of the conditional. And that is my rationale now for trying to show line 11. Whether or not I shall succeed is a different question. Is everyone clear on what the hell we're trying to attempt at line 11? Type in clear if that's clear. Question if you have a question. You could ask for whatever, but if you're going to ask Santa for something, ask for something useful. All right. So insert, there's lots of ways we could do this, right? That's right, we're trying to breach this. Let's do this. Line 12. What the hell do we write at line 12? Take a deep breath and relax. We're trying to show a line. What animal is this? It's a conditional, so we want to try to kill it with a CD. So we're going to assume P. That's going to be my assumption. Look, I can write it as an assumption. It's cool. Notice I have it at line 9, but who the hell cares, right? Assumption for conditional derivation. Insert row below. And at line 13, I'm going to try to show what? What do I want to show? I want to show Q, because that's my consequent. And that is an assertion. I haven't paid for it. And then you go ahead and you look at, let's just follow all of the reflexes, although I think some people can start to smell blood. Can you smell blood? I smell blood. Can people smell blood? I smell blood. Can you start smelling blood? Let me put my select tool. Can people smell blood now? I smell blood. Yeah, we're starting. Doesn't that smell good? Doesn't that make you happy after having done the quiz? Like, yes, blood. Blood is good. I smell blood. We're going for the kill. But you know what? I'm going to follow the standard reflexes. I'm going to assume not Q, right? Because I'm going to follow my standard assumptions. Because I don't want to, look, reflexes are good. Look both sides of the street, right? Perfect plumbers, so far so good. Perfect plumbers, type in yes if everything is perfect plumbing and everything is good so far. Mistake if I've made a mistake. And notice I don't care about generating lines. I'd rather you relax and follow the good reflexes I'm teaching you. That'll treat you well. You could skip this step, but yeah, Max, we could do something else. But we're not doing that. So my brain can't handle that. So the proof's in the pudding. If line by line one can show something differently, that's terrific. But that's the reflexes that I'm using right now are the standard reflexes, Max. So follow me on this journey. Max, you want to go along with this game? We're just going to do this because I can't hold it. That'd be starting all over, right? Like we'd have to do a whole thing all over differently, fancier, probably more confused too. All right. So what the hell do we want to do at line 15? What's a no-brainer move to do, folks? Cole is bringing it home. 10. By repetition, right? And that's Q over here. What do we have, people? We have a contradiction. Contradiction pays for what? Contradiction pays for line 13. How do we prove it? ID. That pays for line 11. How do we pay for it? CD. Let me put some boxes in here for the moment. Let me just add myself a row right away. Insert row below. row 16, but I'm going to give myself some boxes right away so that we don't make the mistake of being overly confused over here. And then I'm going to have a little box over here for that. Hold on. Perfect plumbers. Is everything fine so far? Type in clear if everything is clear. Lost if you're lost. We managed to show line 11. I want to hear from everyone. Clear or lost? Those are the only two options I'm accepting. Remember our goal when we tried to show this. And if you forget why you were doing this, right? You might want to say, following marks tip if a conditional appears blah, blah, blah. Then yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Cool, I did it. I showed the antecedent of a conditional. You know, yeah, cool. Okay, so what are we going to do at line 16? So remember, we wanted to show this why, because we had a purpose. What was our purpose? Now it's a live line. It's in the game now. It's in the game. 5 and 11 by MP. 5 and 11 by MP. I'm looking at 5. I need an antecedent here. I've got my antecedent at 11. I say 5 and 11 by MP. That gets me to unlock the consequent. I'm smelling blood. I'm a happy camper. Blood is good. Perfect plumbers. Confirm line 16. Everything clear? Type in clear. Mistake if we've made a mistake. 5 and 11 by MP. You stretch. You look out the window. Don't get ahead of Papa Bear's warning you. When you get near the kill, you often get excited and you want to skip ahead. And you get too excited. Slow down. Don't let your aim go all messy because your knees are buckling. Slow the hell down. What are your live lines? Survey all of your live lines. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is now live. None of this is live. 6 is. Suggestions for what would be an intelligent line 17. Indivir says 2 and 16 by MT. 2 and 16 by MT. What would that give me? Well, let's have a look. I've got not S. So if I combine not S with if R then S, then I should get not R. Perfect plumbers. Is everything clear? That was a nice suggestion, Indivir. We didn't sort of spell out why you're doing this, but you can totally do it. Can anyone smell blood? We're done. Both suggesting further things we can do. Do you want me to make it a little clearer? Let's do repetition just to bring it closer. We got ourselves a contradiction. This is needless. What I'm doing right now is needless. But I'm going to bring down that R. Yeah. 4 by repetition. Just makes it a little clearer. Can everyone see that? Type in C if you can see that. You don't have to bring it down, but if you bring it down, I will not complain. Do what you got to do to make it happen. It's an extra line, but I want to see you succeed. Who the hell cares? You know, if we spend an eternity in Plato's heaven and we get so good at perfect plumbing, we can play a game of how low can you go? And we can try to do it with as least plumbing as possible. Fair enough. But that's not what we're doing. That's paying some bills for us. What line is this paying for? This contradiction is paying for some bills. What's it paying for? Paying for line 3. It's paying for line 3. How did I show line 3? If I pay for line 3 with the contradiction, that means I showed it by ID. And if I pay line 3, what do I thereby pay? Let me just kind of pause here. Actually, I'm just gonna put this all in a box and then in a box. I'm just gonna do midway boxing here, right? Just so that we're clear on this stage, right? Okay, so we had all this, and then, oopsie, we had all of this was a subderivation to prove line 11 at this stage, just so we don't get confused. And all of this was a subderivation to prove line 13. Right? And then all of this is a subderivation to prove line 3. And line 3, now that we've shown it, that thereby shows line 1, cross box and annotate, cross box and annotate, cross box and annotate, always in that order. And then we clean up all our boxes. I'm going to select this entire thing. I'm going to go borders and shading. I'm going to remove everything. And then I'm going to have to reconstruct carefully my boxing story over here. Clearly, I need a box underneath my main show line. That's how I showed line 1. How did I show line 1? I showed line 1 by showing line 3. And I'm going to go over here, borders and shading. And I'm going to do this. Let me just pause for a second. Is this important to have a space on the side here? Yes or no? Is it important for me to keep a space here? Logical question, not just aesthetic here. Important logical question. The correct answer is yes. Thank you, Hanan, Gersha Ranchit, and Edric for taking a chance. That's the correct answer. Why? Kyun? Wishima? Pourquoi? Vital that there be a space here when I'm boxing. It delineates which box is embedded. Yeah, there will be confusion for the reasons that Hannah points out, right? We're looking at containment relations. What if I do this? So here's an example of what you don't want to do. What if I do this? Just let's make this absurd, just so we can be clear. Let's imagine I do this. Let's imagine I box this, and if you did this, you were about to get 0. Let's just see why that would be the case. If this boxing is like this, can we, using this kind of stacked non-box boxing, reconstruct what contains what? Yes or no? Like, does this exhibit the containment relations? Like, how do I know if this is swallowing this up or the whole thing? You can't tell. I'm not accurately tracking the containment relations. It is vital. I mean, I don't ask you to put it on either side, but it's vital when you're boxing that you box correctly, which means that in this case, what you want to end up with is, yes, a box for the whole shebang. That's terrific. And you clearly need that, right? That's the proof of how you ended up showing. It's the full story of how you showed your main derivation, right? But you also want to be in a position where you do something like this, right? I got to get my boxes straight, right? And I don't know if actually, my boxing, it wasn't like this originally. It's all the way down. Yeah, all the way down like this. It makes a difference. There you go. But now let's go back to my original question. Can everyone see why it is absolutely vital that there be a space here? Type in yes if you can see that. Lost if you're confused. Always needs a top. Yeah, you always need to show a cross row line above a box, and we're going to have some more. I'm not done, Samuel, so I'm pausing midway, just making a point about this. Samuel, is that clear? I'm just pausing midway. I'm not done with boxing. I'm just pausing. I'm not done with boxing. You're absolutely right. I'm just not done. I just wanted to pause to make a pedagogical point. See that, Samuel? Yeah. So you always have a box, right? You always have a box. It is a pretty cool method. We want to be meticulous in our thoughts, right? This is correct. So what we have here is at line 1, we wanted to show this. We assumed the antecedent. I'm proofing everything. And we showed the consequent. Why and how, Mark, did you show the consequent? Well, I made an assumption, and then I had my premises. And then I did all of this teasing out of all of this stuff with my inference rules, and I got stuck. But then I wanted to show this. Why'd you want to show it? Well, I thought to myself, man, if I can only unlock this conditional by affirming its antecedent. Okay, so how did that work out for you? I was able to show it. How'd you do it? Well, I assumed the antecedent, and I tried to show the consequent. How did that work out for you? Terrific, actually. I went in standard reflex mode, and I assumed its contrary, and I was able thereby to obtain a contradiction. Oh, wow. So now you had shown the consequent on the assumption of its antecedent. That allowed you to show a line 11. And because you shown line 11, you were then able to manipulate it in conjunction with line 5. So you have a conditional. I was able to affirm its antecedent, and that unlocked this beautiful, juicy consequent here at line 16. Really? Yeah. And then I did an MT, and it turns out, and I brought this down so I could see it more clearly, that generated a contradiction. And that, my friend, is how I showed the consequent, and thus I was able to show the starting claim. My friends, was this helpful? Yes or no? If you stop there, you get 5 out of 5. Coloring's another thing. Now, am I right or am I wrong? Tell me right or wrong that you're kicking yourself for not having looked more closely at Mark's tips in the document I gave you last week. Am I right or am I wrong? You're kind of, damn it. I should have read that more carefully. I should have committed that to memory. Am I right or am I wrong? That it was all there. I have an alibi. This was given to you last week. Yeah. And so it goes back to my promise, right? The promise is I give you all of the tools to succeed. All right. So what the hell do we do now? Whatever happens, we dust ourselves off, right? And we practice doing our third homework. Can everyone please go under week 11 and confirm that you can see your next batch of homework, 21 questions, 3 per day? Type in yes if you can see that. And I like your attitude, Edric. That's the only way to go. Type in yes if you can see that. Under week 11. Everyone can see that? So what does 3 per day mean? How many are you going to do today? Type in the chat bar. How many practice exercises are you going to do today? 3. Not 4. Why do I not want you to do 4? Not 6. Why do I want you to do 3 and only 3? Why is Papa Bear saying this? Try to reconstruct my rationale. There's a rationale for everything I'm doing, and it's filled with love. Sleep on it. You need to space it out. You don't want to burn yourself out. You also don't want to get sick of it. Spread it out. Give you time to process it, proof it, do it well. Sleep on it because your brain needs to process this stuff. And your brain, I'm sorry to break it to you, it's not just I think, therefore I am in your conscious waking state. Your mind has a whole portion of it that's active in the night. And that's actually crucial for us in logic. Spread this out throughout the week. Do everything you're supposed to do. If for whatever reason you fell behind, up that by doing a little more because you got to catch up and do the homework you did last week. But if you're on track, then you're on track. All right. What are we doing next week? Well, we're doing our second to last class. Holy cow, it's moving forward. Same format. We're going to have a practice sandwich. We're going to practice 45 minutes, do the quiz for 45 minutes, and then practice and actually grade the quiz for another 45 minutes. My friends, does that sound like we can do this? As hard as it is, I planned this. I know sometimes it doesn't work out well. We'll see what the grades are. I haven't graded anything, but your self-assessment is that this didn't go too well. Is everything clear, crystal clear? If you're crystal clear and motivated, type crystal clear and motivated. If you're losing your mind, just type in I'm losing my mind. Crystal clear and motivated is obviously the answer I want. Like, let's just bloody do this. Yeah, you'd want me to, the title of the week to change that. That's cool. I could always upgrade that. But you got to look at the main document. So, Edward, for what it's worth, yeah, yeah. I can fine tune that and spell it out, but the main documents are blueprint, right? So, yeah, good. On that note, my friends, we are done, and I will talk to you next week. Office time begins, but technically we're done. Get the hell out. Go relax now. Please go relax, have a meal, chill out. We did a great workout. It's a tasty sandwich. Bitter maybe sometimes, but we learn it's nutritious. Bitter but nutritious sandwich today. We did amazing, folks. We did amazing. You can totally do this. I believe in you. I believe in you. All right, guys, let's say goodbye and let's leave. And let's roll up our sleeves and let's do this. Edison, you take care. Michael, see you next week. Do what you got to do. Spencer, you have a good day. I'm going to grade these and post the results sometime next week, obviously. Dimitro, take care. Edric, I like your attitude. Let's just do this. Gersharanji, Indivir, good work, Indivir, today. You were on top of your game. LJ, you have a great week. You're pumped. Good. That's the way we do it. Just trust Papa Bear. I've got this all figured out. Just follow all of the advice I already gave you. The kit is there. You've got the kit. Yeah. You can do this. Supplementary readings will only confuse you, Hannah. So spend that time rereading the stuff I gave you. Unless you're concerned with the philosophy behind it, if you want to understand sort of what led to this, then you can look into other stuff. But I'd rather you spend that just rereading and really sinking your teeth into why I say the things I say. Yeah. Have a good class, my friend. Samuel, see you next class. We're doing, I'm watching Everything Everywhere at Once right now. We're doing possible worlds on Wednesday in metaphysics. Yeah. KPU's got tutors. Yes, KPU's got tutors. And some of my better students have gone on to become tutors at KPU. So yeah, you can do that. You can totally have a tutor, and some of them are going to be the ones that haven't taken the class with me won't be as. This is a disclaimer for anyone who's looking to hire a tutor. If they've been trained by another professor, the system of logic that they're going to be accustomed to will be different than mine. Mine is arguably the slimmest on offer. So I know Wayne, Pushin, Jade, and Melinda, the folks who are teaching logic here, I don't think any of them teach a logic with as few as 10 inference rules. It's a very elegant system that I've taken. And so they'll take some getting used to at the beginning. Yeah. But it's out there. It's good old fashioned derivations. They will know their way around, but it preferably try to land someone that's been with me. So yeah. And my methods aren't my methods for what it's worth. I'm ripping them off from other logicians. I've just it's my proprietary blend of making it more attractive, but the system itself, obviously, I didn't devise it. I'm not that smart. I don't have any references offhand. So Edric, sorry, there's no one that pops into my mind. Cole asks a really quick question. It's okay for me to indent my boxes when I'm done, like in the solutions? Yeah, if you can do it visually, that's amazing. You mean on the left side, Cole? Is that right? Not just a space on the right, but a space on the left as well. A little kind of a little gutter on the right. Sorry, on the left. Is that what you mean? Yeah, if it's visually clear, Cole. Actually, let me have a look. Did you do that for this this quiz? What I can do is I can have a look at your actual quiz, and then I'll tell you if it looks good and if I'm happy with what you did. Otherwise, if you need to change it. Okay, cool. Let me have a look at your answer just at a glance, just tell you visually whether you're hurting yourself or whether it's clear. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look, Cole. You just hold on. I'm just going to scroll down and have a look at your copy. If it looks, I'd rather, whatever it is, the advice is make it look like my homework solutions, right? Because don't make up notation. I want you to mimic as much as closely as possible what I do. Oh, that's a little painful. That's a little painful. I'm going to say try to do it like my homework. So I'm fine with it, and I see the point of why you do this, but try to do it like my homework. So when I move it, notice I don't move it as much. There's just a little gutter that I've added actually a column that I put really thin. But otherwise, don't do that. It's going to get painful for me, and I'll be pissed. Yeah, but the intent is good though. Yeah, just do it. Yeah, and Hannah, we can chat after. So I'll make sure everyone's done. I'll kick everyone out. We can talk one-on-one. Cole, thank you for your question. And I don't think it'll hurt you in this case, but next time, do it like my homework. Yeah. Or do it like the bare minimum. Either bare minimum or something that resembles my homework if you can manage it in time. Well done. Well done. Thanks a lot. And you're working really hard. I appreciate it. You're matching me, so match my donation. Everything's going to work out just fine. Yeah. Edric, Avneet, Cole, I'm going to ask you if you need me for something within the bounds of what our policies are in this course. If not, then I'll ask you to leave and I'll tell you goodbye and I'll talk to Anna. Cool. Edric, you take care. Virtual bump knuckles. All right, Anna, I'm going to stop recording. I kicked everyone out. Hold on.